For years, AS Dulat, as the chief of India's external intelligence agency, RAW, and General Asad Durani, the head of Pakistan's ISI, would have plotted to undermine each other's organization. There would have been nothing friendly about this process. Both Dulat and Durani were clear about their jobs and would use any means necessary to get the job done. Which is why the last thing that you would expect would be to see them together on this program after having written a book together called Spy Chronicles, RAW, ISI and the Illusion of Peace. It's been put together by the journalist Aditya Sinha. When this project started, General Durani apparently said no one would believe it even if it was written as fiction. Well, it has been written and provides a first-hand account into some of the workings of two of the world's premier spy agencies in dealing with the biggest national security issues that affect India and Pakistan, Kashmir not least among them. Mr. Dulat, General Durani, I'd like to thank both of you very much for being with us. I'm going to get straight on with parts of this book. Mr. Dulat, you've written how our greatest failure was perhaps our inability to turn around an ISI officer or have an ISI officer working for us. How big of a problem was this?
Well, it's not easy turning around somebody, and that too belonging to a hostile intelligence agency. Actually, what this remark was made in the context of, we were talking about agents and double agents. And what I said was that if you can't get a defector, that's the ultimate. Then the second best is a double agent, because at least he's in the know of what's going on inside there. In fact, I have sometimes heard of agents or double agents being described as somebody who can get you minutes of the goings on in the ISI. So then I think that's the second best. But yeah, if we could actually get an ISI agent and get him to defect, I think it would be a very big thing.
And in the time when you were RAW chief, and perhaps a little while after that, we don't know, that's been an area of concern. That's not really happened, or didn't happen for RAW at the time.
I don't think it is. I don't think it's ever happened. I'm not in the know of it.
Right.
But, we have been very skeptical in our community, whether it is the RNAW or the IB, about double agents. And I think double agents provide about the best intelligence that you can get. So that's why I was stressing on this. And I'm sure the General will agree with me.
General, when you were heading ISI, to what extent was, and these are new things. We'll talk about Kashmir and a lot of what you all have written. But the entire business of double agents, the entire business of piercing each other's intelligence networks, how big a challenge was it for you? Were you able to, during your time, have agents over here in India, double agents?
Whenever it comes to, such, I've always when his experiences, he's a one. I was a line officer and inducted into this business. So whatever little one had learned during that, combined MISI for 3.5 years, I am not claiming that one knew exactly the state of affairs, how many agents there, how many here. I can only tell you one thing, we always held RAW in high regards. Professionally, it was at least as good as our organization, and it was doing its job. And if we did not know about each other as to how many agents and how many double agents there were, it just speaks of that, professionalism. A good agent is the one about which you do not know. And double agent, I think I would agree. I mean, that's a dicey business. I would rather, take whatever he would say and make my own assessment. For me, intelligence ultimately was not about the agents and the information. It is about what information what assessment we make out of all the, complex web of information, disinformation that we get.
General Saab, you've written in the book that you didn't rate or you didn't assess CIA reports very, very well. In fact, you were quite critical of the CIA, which of course has this larger-than-life presence. Why did you disregard, or why do you disregard the CIA as an organization in some fields specific to the subcontinent, when in fact they've had an abiding presence in Pakistan, certainly in Afghanistan, and perhaps even here in India?
Yeah, essentially something about which, of course, my colleague also here agreed, that if any organization was depending only on technical means, because for us, I think human beings are more important, more reliable, then they will not get the type of information that they need. And of course, the proof was time and again, I saw their assessment, Iraq War of 1991, their own understanding of what was happening here, whether they were ignorant about the Indian nuclear test or not, I do not know, but they certainly did not read the situation during the mobilization in May 1990 very accurately. You probably saw some cranes moving out and they thought these were the nuclear things and so on. So when everything put together, and also, of course, I have no illusion that whenever some reports did come to my attention, they may have been planted or they may have been doctored, but they never talked of anything of substance. So they are not very profound in their assessment of things.
General Saab, you spoke about India's nuclear tests. Wouldn't you also accept that it was perhaps a very big failure of ISI not to have any idea that India was about to conduct its nuclear tests?
I think you're right. I'm not going to say that we exactly knew Pokhran and everything was being prepared. But since I said about assessment, not to blow one's own trumpet or something, it became quite clear as soon as BJP came to power in 1997. When it came to power, I went openly and I said they're likely to conduct a nuclear test, because that is how the things were building up. So the assessment generally may have been correct, but of course I don't think we were watching that area, and we did not have the means to watch that area.
General Saab said that, electronic means of collecting intelligence has its limitations. It might be useful, but ultimately it's the analysis of that that's important. During the Kargil War, the height of the Kargil War, we picked up an unbelievable scoop, the conversations between the Pakistani army chief, and I think it was General Musharraf at that time who was speaking. How important was that in the context of what was happening over there, and was it a setback that we actually released this footage? I think we broadcast those tapes here on NDTV first. Was it in hindsight a setback for you from an intelligence standpoint?
It was a setback, I would think, to the extent that there may have been a couple of more conversations on that net. And I still remember, because it was before I took over the RNAW, and I remember having a conversation with my predecessor, and I said, don't you think this is a mistake? That, because this channel will close here. And he said, well, it's too late. This is a political call, and the politicians have decided that it'll be made public. So, yeah, I thought that it should not have been done. But coming to electronic, of course, that was a big scoop that we got very lucky, that conversation between General Musharraf and General Aziz. Interestingly, there is a comment or a question that Musharraf asked from Beijing, that I hope the politicians are all right, not too shaken up by what has happened. So this brings one to the other question that has often been raised, that did Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif know about what was happening? It seems that he knew about certain things, but he didn't have the whole picture.
In fact, General Durani, would you like to tell us a little bit about that? How much did Nawaz Sharif know about what Kargil was supposed to be? How much of the action had he actually cleared?
Yeah, in this case, I didn't have to make assessment. An old colleague of mine, very kind of him, he used to brief me during this crisis regularly, and it became very clear to me that Nawaz Sharif was briefed on the operation all right, but the extent to which it was going to go, by design, by default, about that he had no idea. In any case, he was not the person who would fuss about it. He probably, after he had been briefed somewhere in October or November of 98, may have even forgotten about it. And then suddenly woke up and someone said, well, there is something happening in Kargil. That's quite possible.
General Saab, you've also made comments about bin Laden. Is it your sincere belief that the Pakistani intelligence services had a decisive role in effectively handing over Osama bin Laden to the Americans?
This was purely my assessment. Started after that, heard of my program with BBC Hot Talk. I said, I do not know what it seems quite likely that at one stage we knew he was, and we have exchanged him in this particular manner. And we were denying all knowledge, we were denying any ownership of this program because of the political fallout. Now, that could have been said by someone who was just in the in the assessment, making business, and now away from the scene. I was thousands of miles away from that particular scene. However, the more important thing is that every investigative report that I have seen, two from the West, two from Pakistan, they all come to more or less the same conclusion that at some stage the ISI cooperated in the whole thing, or Pakistan Army cooperated, possibly also with the consent of the government in Islamabad.
All right. I wanted to actually talk about the biggest issue that the two of you have spoken about, and that is the issue of Kashmir. And let me ask you this. The two of you have been part of this process of track 2, of engaging each other, and of Indians and Pakistanis at the highest levels trying to take the process forward. Would you accept that at this stage track 2 has failed because despite every effort which is made, there are terror attacks which emanate from Pakistan? Therefore, anything we do, if our policy is to not talk unless such time as terrorists stop, there is no way forward.
No, track 2 would always fail or always be trumped by track 1. The crucial thing is track 1. Track 2, there is a lot of wishful thinking. It is do-gooders who sit and talk and hope and believe, and this is what this book is exactly that. So, you can't expect us to solve these problems. At best, we sit down and discuss and convey a message somewhere that, this could happen or could be done. And in Kashmir, I would say that by and large, it's been fine. We've had it well under control, except for the last couple of years, where things have gone out of control. And also, Pakistan was out of it, totally out of it. Now it has come back, and to my way of thinking, getting a free ride in Kashmir. Because, whatever General Saab might say or think, there is no love lost between the Kashmiri and Pakistan, either ways.
Yeah. General Saab, to what end, to what extent were you part of the process of the ISI getting people from Pakistan into Kashmir to work as terrorists?
Well, to start with, when it happened, not get there. I was heading the app, but I know that as the total picture was concerned, it was not very clear what had happened and what would be its potential. So during those initial years, we were just trying to understand the dynamics of the whole thing, and more importantly, if it was possible at all for us to gain a handle or keep a handle on this thing, because if you do get involved, it should not go to the extent that it results in a war that neither side wants, the unintended consequence. So I think this is what we were struggling to get hold of. As far as people coming and going is concerned, that was very well known. People came, people went away. They didn't need anyone from us to help them either come or go. That's the nature of the border. And that certainly was the possibility that the border offered at that time, till it became tense and the wires, etc.
But General Saab, it's common knowledge now that so many terrorist groups, so many individuals are trained in Pakistan. Young people are trained in military tactics. They're trained in ideology. They're trained in tactics. They're trained in targets. They are financed. They are armed. They're equipped. They're given food, medical assistance if required, and they are sent across. And their families are also paid. Sir, weren't you part of a process that was central to this business of sending in terrorists to India?
Even if the vice was breaking down, I do accept the question. As to this business, this is the first remark that might be expressed by Mr. Dulat. And I said this is, we do use the so-called proxies, we do use Mukti-Yanis, we do Mukti-Lashkars and so on and so forth. And the trick is to what end and how, and if we can keep the leverage over that. But that was the general point. As for the specific, if anyone believes that a country like Pakistan, with all the capabilities, with all the threats, with the environment that we exist, that we are in a position to even, shut down all the groups, even those that are acting against us, leave aside Afghanistan against the United States or Kashmir against India, then one is, overestimating our thing. We cannot do it. I do not know which country has done better than the others, but these things do exist. But in case of Pakistan, I do suggest environment, all that has developed, especially during the last about 20 years, and after that to expect that we'll be able to muzzle everyone, we will get hold of everyone and control it. Well, that's not going to happen. That's too much to ask. And of course, I'm also not, saying that there may not have been deficiencies in our handling. We have limitation.
General Saab, Kargil, the attack on India's parliament, Pathankot, Uri, when do you believe India and Pakistan came closest to a war, a full-fledged war?
I think that's a very good point, frankly, and that is what we discussed. These are those things that happen, some because of us, some because of us, because of the outsiders, not reflected in that. At times we won't even know. I believe there is also now a very thick book which has come out, written by some German, Davidson and so on. If we get involved into all of this, then we'll be, blaming each other all the time. We will be saying, but you did it and it was a false flag operation. And that is why the wisdom of agreeing on the joint anti-terror mechanism, I think it was Sharm el-Sheikh, which gets opposed by the bureaucracies on both the sides and because of some other do-gooders on both sides, actually is a very good idea. On certain things, start sharing intelligence, see how much you can share, and then later on try and investigate together so that we know, we are convinced who Ajmal Kasab was and when was he taken, or for that matter, why were certain people, eliminated right in the beginning of the Bombay operation. These things can only be taken care of if we do get down to the business of using this mechanism.
Yeah. So one last question to you. In this book, both of you have identified lots of low-hanging fruit in terms of how to take the entire process forward. You've said to encourage, facilitate people-to-people contacts, increase flights, right? Cricket should be resumed, you've written, and the General has made a lot of other suggestions. What do you believe realistically at this stage, given what we are seeing, given how tenuous the peace is, there is no peace on the LOC that we can do? What can we do now?
Well, actually, I believe a lot, but then, as my friend General Durani would say, you are an incurable optimist. The point is that I think there was a suggestion made, on this track too, a couple of years ago, that since everything had come to a standstill, there was a logjam, that one way of moving forward was to invite our NSA to Lahore and get this thing moving. But somehow in Pakistan, nobody had the vision or the imagination to take that forward. I would now say, because if you look at the world, there's a lot of inflection taking place. Who would have imagined the two Koreas, talking to each other? Or who could possibly have conceived 3 months ago that President Trump might interact with President Kim?
Yeah.
So I would say we need to also think big. And as Dr. Manmohan Singh used to say, out of the box, roll out that red carpet, invite General Bajwa and see what happens.
All right, well, think big. Is that going to happen? In as much as you suggest that, I should remind you, Mr. Dulat, of the title of your own book, Chronicles, Raw ISI and the Illusion of Peace.
Sure.
I think the real danger is that
you see
that perhaps we are deluded into believing that there is a peace, because peace is always an illusion for us, it seems.
You're right, Vishnu. This book is unprecedented.
Yep.
Even if it's only a dream.
No, it is unprecedented, even if it is a dream. And I do hope that some of what you have planned as far as this book is concerned, some of your suggestions and an honest analysis of where India and Pakistan are going can be realized. I can tell you it's a fantastic read. And Mr. Dulat, General Durani, it's been a privilege speaking to both of you. And congratulations for having the courage to actually come together in writing something like this. And hopefully it is something that will take our process forward. Thank you both very much for being with us. It's time now for us to take a short break. There's more coming up.